What's up everyone, Clayton from Undialed here. We are at Freestone Skatepark in Gilbert, Arizona, and today I'm going to teach you how to backside 360 out of ramps. We have made a video on how to 360 flat, but if you're still having trouble doing the 360, doing them out of a ramp is going to be way easier. All right, the first place I'm going to teach you is out of a bank. I feel like that's the easiest to learn out of. The reason why it makes it easier, in my opinion, is because whenever you come out of the bank, you're not as vertical as you would be coming out of a quarter pipe. So the bank makes you a little bit more level, which in return will make the 360 a lot easier to land. So the reason why I chose this bank specifically is because it's a little bit on the steeper side, which will give you a little bit more power coming out of the 360 and give you more air time to get the spin around completely. Also, something that I really like about learning 360s out of banks is because both wheels will be on the ground when you start the trick. So it's going to give you a lot more power and leverage on the actual spin itself. So this is a much mellower bank, and if you could tell in the video, I'm having to put a lot more power into the jump, which is going to make the 360 a lot harder to learn versus the steeper bank that's going to give you a little bit more of a pop. So a lot of riders get the wrong idea about 360s. They think that you really need to force the wheel to turn because that's what's going to start your rotation, which is not entirely true. When you do a 360, the whole spin comes from your upper body. It comes from your hips and your shoulders and your head. So wherever your head goes, your body's gonna follow. So it's important on 360s to continue the spin with your head, because if you go and stop here, your rotation's gonna stop at 270. If you start the spin and keep your head going all the way around, you'll be able to spot your landing better and do the full 360. So since the power of a 360 or any spin trick comes from your hips, your shoulders, and your head, do not need to throw your handlebars in any direction. That carve motion will come organically from your shoulders being thrown into the spin. It's a very organic motion and it's nothing you need to force. Really watch my head, shoulders, and hips when I do a 360 flat. You notice I am not doing this, because if I do that, this is what happens. It's too much. What's really helpful about learning 360s on banks is that you're able to use your feet as leverage to really start the spin. You can use the ground to your advantage by really pressing into the ground, throw your shoulders to get the spin around. Now what's important is what to do while you're in the air. The goal of doing a 360 is staying upright, because you don't want to land too far back on your back wheel to make you loop out. You also don't want to land too far on your nose to make you hit your face. So when you're doing the 3 and you're jumping off the lip of the bank, you want to try to have your body as straight as possible, because what that's going to do is when you go off the lip, it'll even you out to where when you need to land, you're already upright. A big reason why people land on their back wheel, which I think is the most common mistake people do on 360s, is that you're dipping your inside shoulder. So when you go for the 360, you're dropping it like this, which then sets your spin all corked out like this, instead of being upright where you need to be. When you drop your shoulder, you're gonna spin around like that, which makes you land on your back wheel. Not fun. So like I said earlier, where your head goes, your body goes. So you need to make sure that your head is always upright, because once you drop your shoulder and your head, that's where your spin is gonna go. It might look cool for a second, but it's not gonna feel cool. Another thing that will help you is going a little bit faster at the bank. Don't go past your comfort level, because that's when it gets dangerous, but speed is power. The more speed you have, the more power you have. Now, I'm gonna teach you how to do it out of quarter pipes. Flyout is going to be the most common obstacle you're going to have at a skate park versus a bank with good landing area. There's one thing that's really hard about learning them out of a quarter pipe, is because when you're going off the lip of the quarter pipe, you kind of have to go on your front wheel just a hair. So taking the 360 to a quarter pipe from a bank, you want to have the same concept of going up with both wheels and using both wheels as leverage, but you're gonna have to do it a little bit earlier. When you do that, like what point of the quarter you're gonna start the spin depends on how steep the quarter pipe is. So for this quarter, it'd be roughly around right here. The quarter is not steep enough to where you have to go up on your front wheel in order to spin out of it. It's still where you're able to spin out of it like a bank, but you just have to do it a little bit earlier. I like to go about a foot below the coping because that will allow me to have both wheels on the quarter pipe so I can still get that leverage from both my wheels to start the spin. Now for probably the hardest fly out that you could ride, which is a vert quarter pipe. This quarter is about 10 feet, about a foot of vert. And when you do 360s or really any trick out of these type of quarter pipes, you have to jump early. What's gonna happen is your front wheel is gonna be left behind in order for you to maintain that symmetry of staying straight up and down. So compared to the other quarters, I had to jump about 2 feet below the coping. And I would say that if you're trying to get to that point, you're just learning 360s, definitely hold back, get them really good until you're able to dial them in on big quarter pipes. Something that I benefited from learning 360s out of big quarters, that you're able to do more awkward gaps and ride the park a lot differently than you normally could. For example, there's this gap at Freestone. I feel like the only way I'm able to do it is because I've learned 360s out of bigger quarters. For me personally, and the way that I ride, 360s have honestly helped my style to like a whole nother level. Gaps like that are things I enjoy riding. 360s are one of the first tricks I learned. That's why I wanted to share this tutorial with you because it is one of my favorite tricks. It's a trick that you can use to your advantage in contest formats because you're able to go further than you could just normally jumping something because you can jump earlier. Learning 360s and learning them out of quarters is really gonna benefit your riding in a lot of ways. So once you learn it, send me some videos on Instagram at Clayton Lindley, and I wanna see some of your crazy tricks. Thank you for watching. We'll have way more tutorials in the future, and if you enjoyed this one, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.